Damian is the son of Talia Al Ghul and Bruce Wayne. He is multiracial, being Jewish on his father's side and Arab Chinese on his mother's side. While it is unknown what Talia's exact ethnicity is, she is from Arabia, the Arabian Peninsula. Racism against Arab people has historically been prevalent in America, meaning the stereotyping and discrimination leaks into the media we consume. DC has extensively documented instances of portraying Arab individuals as villains or easily exploited goons. The first concern with Damian's character is his conception. In Batman, The Son of the Demon, 1987, Bruce Wayne had a short relationship with Talia Al Ghul, which ended in her drugging and raping him to create a successor for her father, Ra's al Ghul. While in some comics, DC has retracted the rape aspect and had Talia just steal Bruce's DNA to make Damian. This is still awful, and the fact that either option was written is a problem. Promiscuous woman who flirts around with the hero is no new trope, but the context of her character is where the issue comes clear. Arab American women are often portrayed as exotic, characterized by subservience, silence, and an air of mystery, while being significantly constrained within their patriarchal Islamic religious communities. Null J. Wesley, ed. 2008. Talia was instructed by her father to seduce and rape Bruce Wayne to make a suitable heir for him. Not only is this horrific in theory, but the fact that Bruce was assaulted is not brought up again, except for a quick laugh in DC lore. This same concept was utilized later in the Red Robin run, 2011, when Ra's instructs his sister to rape Tim Drake, Batman's 16-year-old son, in order to make him an heir. Now, why would these writers have Damian conceived in such an awful and traumatic way? And why is rape such a prevalent topic while writing the Al Ghuls? Most likely, racism. What reason do we have as a country to hate immigrants, Iranians, Palestinians, Mexicans, Africans, or any other ethnic groups? The far right has developed an answer to appeal to these more concerned people. They are rapists. There are obviously no statistics that show that people of color are more likely to sexually assault someone, but it's an easy way to get you riled up. It is a trope that centers around the idea of an us against them, where the imagined in-group of native white women, and by extension the white nation itself, is at risk due to the inherently predatory, violent and overly sexual nature of a homogeneously and hypersimplistically imagined outgroup of Muslim men. Caesari 2021, Cockbane, and Tufail 2020. While Talia is not a man, she is controlled by her father, and is still victimized by this predatoristic stereotyping. Talia's character also follows the Asian baby mama trope, which is explained as, the white hero, or sometimes villain, discovers he has a hitherto unknown child with an exotic former lover. The hallmarks of an Asian baby mama are as follows: she's a peripheral or recon love interest, she's presented as an exotic dragon lady, she gives birth to a mixed-race child, and keeps it secret from the father. She often has some sort of strange and twisted motive behind the conception of her child. What separates this trope from a normal interracial relationship is that the Asian baby mom's relationship with the father of her child is rarely shown on screen. She's usually a footnote in his past. TVTropes.org. Ra's is Damian's grandfather, and is a recurring Batman villain. He was first introduced in Batman number 232, 1971, with a goal to cleanse the Earth to make a superior race of humans. He is known as the leader of a secret terrorist organization called the League of Shadows, or League of Assassins depending on contingency, which is based in Arabia but never given a concrete country. The League is a global organization of ruthless killers who are loyal only to their leader. Sounding familiar yet? For context on what was going on during this timeline, before the war surrounding Israel's establishment in 1948, present-day Gaza was part of the large swath of the Middle East under British colonial rule. After Israel defeated the coalition of Arab states, the Egyptian army was left in control of a small strip of land wedged between Israel, Egypt and the Mediterranean. During the war, some 700,000 Palestinians either fled or were forced from their homes in what is now Israel, a mass uprooting that they call the Nakba, or catastrophe. Tens of thousands of Palestinians flocked to the Strip. Julia Frankel, Associated Press of PBS. Israel seized control of Gaza from Egypt during the 1967 Mideast War, when it also captured the West Bank and East Jerusalem, areas that remain under Israeli control. The internationally recognized Palestinian Authority, which administers semi-autonomous areas of the occupied West Bank, seeks all three areas for a hoped-for future state. Israel built more than 20 Jewish settlements in Gaza during this period. It also signed a peace treaty with Egypt at Camp David, a pact negotiated by U.S. President Jimmy Carter. Julia Frankel, Associated Press of PBS. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi referenced this treaty when barring Palestinian refugees into Egypt. He claimed the potential entrance of militants into Egypt would threaten long-standing peace between them and Israel. But within this occupation, Where are the Palestinians? It wasn't their land, according to Israel, and with the United States' permission, the people of Gaza were forced out from their homes by Israeli forces, and either deported or murdered. That is why some attempted to flee to Egypt. The United States needed to tell their people something. They were allowing a genocide and displacing thousands of people. The easiest way to do this was to label all Arabs as violent criminals, because the mistakes of few are historically an acceptable excuse for the death of thousands. Following the infamous incident at the 1972 Munich Olympics, in which a group of Palestinians took Israeli athletes hostage and murdered them, the Nixon administration launched Operation Boulder, giving law enforcement agencies carte blanche to investigate Arab immigrants and Arab American citizens in search of connections to terrorist activities related to the Arab-Israeli conflict. Thus, a violent act committed in Munich by a handful of Palestinians became the basis on which all Arabs were designated as suspicious. Ipa Kumar. The Nixon administration's Operation Boulder was an early effort of the U.S. government to target Arabs in the United States for special investigation and discourage their political activism on Middle Eastern issues. The president's directives authorized the FBI to investigate people of Arabic background to determine their potential relationship with terrorist activities related to the Arab-Israeli conflict. Operation Boulder involved visa screening of people from Arab countries and domestic monitoring of Arab Americans, citizens and non-citizens, especially students, Jews against anti-Muslim racism. It is pretty clear to see where Ra's character comes from here, and what racial bias was involved in his writing. Now that this issue is explained, let us continue. First introduced as a baby in Batman, the Son of the Demon 1987, Damian has had some huge character changes since. Damian was raised by the League, and at 10 years old, he is a trained, ruthless killer. In Batman number 655, 2006, Damian is reintroduced when Talia decides to drop him off with Bruce. He is convinced this is his birthright and becomes Batman's Robin almost immediately, even when Bruce disagrees. Damian is drawn ambiguously Middle Eastern, sometimes darker and sometimes lighter, but consistently with Arab features such as his black hair, dark eyes, thick eyebrows, and a rounder face shape. He has bits of Arabic in his dialogue occasionally, and is known to have an accent. He is shown on multiple occasions wearing a traditional Arabian tunic called a thobe. He is ruthless, cocky, and seems to have no empathy. He is presented as a feral child, and a weapon created by Ra's. Damian has no emotional attachment to his father and is often at odds with Bruce, as Robin, and himself. Despite Batman's no-kill rule, Damian is an assassin, and often goes too far when fighting alongside his father. Why is this problematic? Let's go back to the timeline. After the events of 9/11, the United States launched the War on Terror. In reality, all this war accomplished was an even stronger sense of instilled systemic racism and violence against Arab people. Government officials convinced Americans that the individuals involved in this attack were a part of a secret terrorist organization on American soil, and that their members lie amongst good patriots like you. To put it bluntly, Arab, and Muslims in particular, were to be blamed for this tragedy, because diminishing the ideological appeal of violent extremism is a vital U.S. interest. CFR, Council of Foreign Relations expert. The United States' horrific and racially divisive framing of the situation contributed to decades of violence against Arab communities. The violence included murder, physical assaults, arson, vandalism of places of worship, and other property damage, death threats, and public harassment. Human rights organization. Americans were furious with the attack on 9/11 and ergo, brought much of the racism attributed to Arab characters into their media at the time, comics included. As Damian's relationship with Bruce slowly grows, over the years, you see him change. In the time of Battle for the Cowl 2009, Damian is an established member of the Bat family. He has decided to stay with Bruce. He is still easily triggered but is much more nuanced. He still has depth in his character. This isn't him being evil anymore. This is a traumatized child acting out to feel in control. Writers don't quite erase his heritage, even making his official Robin suit very much designed after a traditional Arab tunic and armor. In Batman and Robin Reborn 2010, Bruce goes missing, and his oldest son, and previous Robin, Dick Grayson, takes over the mantle of Batman. Damian becomes his Robin, and while it takes quite a bit of time, the two bond, and Damian makes substantial progress towards a relationship with his family. Before Bruce's return, there was even talk of Dick adopting Damian himself. Bruce is brought back home in Batman: The Return of Bruce Wayne number 16, 2010, and retakes the mantle of Batman. Damian returns as his Robin, and they fall back into routine. As Damian adjusts to his father's return, he often lashes out in anger, which causes angst and tension between the two. In Robin Rises, Omega number 1, 2014, Damian is brought back from hell after being killed in the events of Gotham's Most Wanted, 2013. He is often depicted in conflict between his past as a killer and his mantle now as Robin. Batman continues his struggle to teach Damian about the sanctity of life and makes slow but steady progress for the next few years of comic runs. From 2015 on, Damian is a much more mature character. He still is more aggressive than his siblings. A few more years, and you see Damian is really becoming part of the Bat family. The former assassin has given up killing. One thing that is becoming increasingly apparent, however, as Damian distances himself from his past and realizes his grandfather was evil, he does slowly get whiter. His skin is the same shade as the white characters, and his Arab features are no longer as present. Some artists retain his thick eyebrows and dark eyes, but his face is much thinner and more angular. Even while aggressively whitewashing this character, some writers are still portraying Damian in very insensitive and racist lights throughout this time period. Devin Grayson, a writer I personally despise, is very guilty of this. Despite the fact that Damian's best friend, John, and multiple of his family members are canonically queer, Devin writes Damian as homophobic. In her DC Pride 2022 comic, Damian refers to pride as a riot and shows an animalistic pleasure in explaining how he's going to stop it, including the use of smoke bombs. The comic ends with him sulking in the background after being berated, as the rest of the characters enjoy the parade. This particular comic is a fantastic example of pinkwashing, when racism is excused through false allyship to the LGBTQ+ community. Portraying your brown characters as homophobic tricks readers into a sense of progressiveness, distracting them from the racist caricatures you are pushing. The weaponization of LGBTQI rights, as exemplified through tactics such as pinkwashing and homonationalism, represents a disturbing mechanism where the struggle for equality becomes a tool for political maneuvering. The International LGBTQI Youth and Student Organization. In most comic runs from 2021 on, Damian Al Ghul looks very white. He has pale skin, spiky hair, thin eyebrows, and brown or black hair, and on multiple occasions, blue eyes. His face is much thinner, and the bits of Arabic he speaks are vastly diminished if not non-existent. Shows such as Batman and Superman, Battle of the Super Sons, and Harley Quinn, the TV series, are strong examples of the whitewashing of this character. One comic, Super Sons, Volume 2 Number 1, 2019, goes so far as to rename him Ian, saying he hates his original name, and portraying him as a Caucasian boy. Writers are starting to infantilize him. He is no longer seen as dangerous, and they boil down his trauma into him being a brat, even being referred to as such multiple times in the comics. Let's break down why this development is bad. Making your Arab character a violent killer, who will stab you in the back at a moment's notice, is wrong, obviously. But writer, why is it still racist? They fixed it later. Well, because of how they did that. As writers try to fix the issues I brought up, they're whitewashing him. They take his melanin, his language, and Arab features, they reshape his whole existence into whiteness, and only then can they make him a happy, good kid. This only further projects the idea that Arab people are inherently violent. With the road that DC took with his story, you could infer that making Damian white was the only way to forward his character into a more domestic role. This is obviously incorrect. There is no actual need to change Damian's race and features in order to give him character development. Now you could make the argument that the Al Ghul's backstory is riddled with racism. That is obviously true. I clearly agree. But should we stick our fingers in our ears and scream pretend that didn't happen? No, because you can't just rewrite decades of racism. I believe that DC should acknowledge their past mistakes in writing Middle Eastern characters and move forward in a more positive way with the characters, instead of changing them to better fit the brand. Damian's character can't just be rewritten at this point. Neither can his ethnicity or checkered history. At this time, there is not a single Damian-centric comic written by an Arabic person. DC needs to speak to and employ actual Arabic writers if they want a chance at saving Damian's history. That's all for now. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you have any questions to clarify, or there's any topic you would like me to dive into further.